Pembroke, that burned, that we'd had that one 21 years. It burned in January of the 23rd of 2016, 4 years next month. We found this property, and there was no restrictions on it. In fact, we actually built the range before we built the house.
Wow.
Stop right there. I just want to say, and look at the picture of this guy. Probably straight white male from Texas. This is a guy that most people have been, have been the poster child for evil in this whole world. We've been far too long, there's a picture of him, far too long in this country, especially in the last decade. Guys like this have been called racist, suppressing other people, just of all the other stuff. Now, this is a guy that took out the shooter on that. I just want to make that point because we're going to come back and talk about that a little bit later. Run the rest of the video.
I love how you can see for miles right here off the
Yep.
front porch. That's
Well,
beautiful.
you know where Comanche Peak nuclear plant is?
Mhm.
If you go right over there, you can see it.
Oh, very cool.
Yep. Just off the backside of that trailer over there.
But you see some really pretty like sunrises.
Sunrises and sunsets both. Sun comes up right, this time of year right through over the top of that white car and sets back over there. So yeah, it's
That's really nice.
some of them are quite pretty.
And I see some interesting storms roll in too.
Yeah, they do, but it's it's nice and peaceful out here normally.
Yeah. Well, are you guys ready? You ready? First, Jack, I just wanted to ask you, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. Concerned with the families of the two individuals that were killed, because I've known them for some time. Richard and I are extremely close. He was also a member of the security team. We enjoy being together. He works very diligently at the church as far as making sure the services go well and get that all taken care of. Tony is very outgoing, very friendly. Takes care of people at church and also at in his professional job outside as a nurse and X-ray technician. So it's I'm dealing with that. I'm more concerned about that. I personally don't feel like I killed a human being. I took some evil out, and that's how I'm processing this whole situation. But it's something that I prepared for, both in my military career and my previous law enforcement career, both, where I feel like if you have to do something like this, then that's what you do. I can't see backing away from that. As I told the Texas Ranger during the investigation yesterday, and the FBI both, same scenario, same situation, or similar situation again, I'll do the same thing again. This is what I'm comfortable with, providing safety for individuals and being able to take care of them if at all possible. If in this kind of a scenario, that's what the members of the team have trained for. That's what we trained for, is to be able to do that. So that's how I'm processing right now. I've got a lot of friends in the law enforcement world, plus a lot of friends at the church. I've got quite a few friends all over the North Texas area that are, talking to me and telling me if I need to, talk. I've got, there's one retired FBI agent that goes to church there full time. Another FBI agent that's retired assistant deputy director. He and I go back a long ways. He's already contacted me today, and he has said if I need to talk to him, because both of them have already been in this same kind of situation, and so that's also a possibility. But as far as just dealing with it right now, I'm concerned about not only the families of the two men that were killed, but the overall church family because 250 to 260 people witnessed it. They were that, in the
I can barely hear you, and I couldn't hear any of that video at all. You know what? I can't hardly hear you. Can you turn the audio up?
I don't want to turn it up anymore. It's going to blast everybody's ear out.
Okay. I'll tell you what. You know what? Let me Skype in and see if that's better.
Check your mic.
His mic's fine. I can hear him.
Now you can hear him?
Yeah. Oh, as soon as we went,
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you go.
I can hear fine.
There you go. I guess we had a dead spot in the system, but no, we're back on the air. Hopefully, we didn't lose everybody.
No, you're good.
Yeah, now we're good. So, back to the deal. So we got you on, Dwayne.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me fine?
Absolutely.
So we're gonna work on the deal. We had Jack Wilson on, and just to paraphrase what he did, he said, his first concern was to the two guys that were perished and their families, and then the rest of the people in the church. He said I would absolutely do it again, which I had no premonition that he wouldn't say something like that. But this guy was he was an active trained. He has a shooting range. He trains people. He was a former FBI agent that was that. So, and he was kind of the head of security for that church. But as I was saying before, and I said there, right at the top when I said that. I said, this is the guy that has been the straight white male that lives across the whole plains of the country has been demonized, it seems like, in the dominant media. Blamed for everything, called racist, uh, women haters. We're the evil white employers that suppress everybody and all this sort of stuff. And this is the guy that took out the evil at the Texas church, and he and prevented many people from doing that. And we have a subculture in this country that is demonizing people like this. And this is what the sub part of this is one of the things that struck me about this whole thing when I saw Jack Wilson's video. And I've talked about it a lot on the radio last year, stuff like that, of the war against a straight white male. But is this the type of person that you really want to eliminate or change in our society? What do you say, Dwayne?
Well, I think what you're dealing with here, to answer your question, no, obviously, because the guy went above and beyond the call. So let's just, the word hero is probably used a little excessively, but the fact of the matter is this man saved lives because of his ability to think rapidly and react even faster. And that was a result of his training. And I think I touched on that when we first saw this video, that just by the way the man reacted, it looked like somebody that had received training. Now, that being said, look, you have a cabal of leftist individuals in this country, mainly the media, that are pushing a narrative to create a problem, as the late, great George Putnam said, Hegelism. And they expect everybody to believe the false narrative that they want to portray, to scare people into agreeing with them, be it to take away your firearms or to demonize another group of people. And by doing this, what they do is they create an enemy whereby we can pick and choose sides. Those people there are your enemy. We are your friends. Join us, vote for us, and be on our side, and we'll win against the evil, insert whatever you'd like. And the very notion of racism has probably not been as dominant or pervasive in our society as has been since the Obama years. And I'm not saying this to denigrate him about his own personal ethnicity or lack thereof, because, from what I understand, he's half white, half black. So he was supposed to be the perfect president. Between himself, the rest of the Democratic Party, now I shouldn't say the rest, but a good number of them, and the media portrayed this growing racism, this racism that is growing in America. Didn't we have a civil rights movement in the 60s? I don't know about you, but nobody in my family or our family together has ever owned a slave that we can find. and nobody since then. At least not in America. There is a slave trade. But it's not, there are people being sold into the slave trade.
Yeah, they're called undocumented illegal aliens, and I've talked about that many times.
And there's women that are being abducted and sold into the slave trade continuously.
Yeah, in the sex industry. What do you think they're doing with all the 13 and 14, 15-year-old girls that are coming up from Guatemala here lately of that?
I think it's sick. You know what? We really need... this underlies, this tag of racism underlies a far worse condition, a far more pervasive problem in our culture, and that is that there is a need for the sex trade. It's just like drugs, Roy. The reason it exists is because there's a demand for it. Who is it that wants this? Those are the people that, look, I don't know what you think about Jeffrey Epstein, but I don't
Yeah,
think he hung himself. Okay. This guy had dirt on all the big players. So the people that are pushing for the sex trade are some of the wealthiest people in America. They are on both sides of the aisle. They are Democrats, they are Republicans, they are independents, they are in all walks of life. They are the uber rich that can get away with it. And that is why you have a sex trade. Because if the people couldn't afford their private jets to fly to a private island,
there you go. Yeah, I got I want to roll this in a little different direction of that. But we've had Mason Weaver kind of just slide sideways on this. We had Mason Weaver on. He was part of the other side, Black Panther with Ron Red Dellums and stuff.
right?
Completely changed his perspective, on board with Trump on that. Show the pictures of the two victims again on the there on the screen that were in the Texas church and there, the one guy. Tony Wallace. Now that guy I would consider he's in a Texas church of there he's I think 64 years old. Hit the next guy. Standing right next to him was Richard White. They were both on the security team with Jack Wallace. If that Texas church had these two, there's Jack Wilson. I mean, Jack Wilson, the guy that took him out. They were all in the security team of that, and I don't know how many of the members of the other 5 or 6 guys that come showing up there with guns. Why would Tony Wallace, if this was a big racist country or all these guys, these hillbillies and all this, why would Tony Wallace be hanging around with this crowd?
Well, the short answer is he wouldn't. And everything you see, Roy, just goes to dispel this myth that the left has created. Look at the main rebuttal every time Trump achieves a new milestone, every time he completes a new promise. What do? Racist this, racist that. They don't say, and they never have said, it doesn't work because, and we have a better plan, and here it is. What they say is racist, 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 because they don't have any logical recourse to anything that's going on. How are you going to argue with a stock market that's at an all-time high, unemployment that it's an all-time low? How do you do that? Well,
no, I will tell you that you create a world that's not that is so far out of reality that's 100% out of shape. Stephanie, tell me, are we on target or are we off base?
You guys are insane.
Well, that's
Stephanie, I got to ask you a question.
Oh, no.
Why do you think we're insane?
I'm just kidding. You guys aren't insane.
But no, I mean,
think that it's just, I don't know.
Go ahead. I mean, no, I'd really like to hear your perspective on it because, I mean, we see this all the time. We see, and this is what, and I think Dwayne's touching on it, and I know that's what I'm saying.
I just don't see where the racism is coming from that you guys are talking about right now.
All of the time that you...
I mean, I know that people talk about it, but in these photos, I'm not seeing it.
No, of course, that's what I'm saying, because it doesn't
That's our
exist.
point.
That's our point. It
That's
doesn't
our point,
exist.
exactly.
The ones that come on there was none other, and I hope she come. I pray, or whatever, the heavens come down. I would like Amber Rochelle to come right back in here and sit in this seat again. She did here once. She's been one on Rio Valley Politics Matters and stuff. Has produced. She said, and she was in here with for almost 2 hours, and we went on it. And she was the one that pushes this stuff, systemic racism,
See,
and all this
the
stuff.
The more you talk about it, the more that you're building it. People need to stop talking about racism and just get along.
You just
with
hit
each
the
other.
Yes,
nail on
they're
the
the
head,
they're
Stephanie.
we are not
Exactly.
we are yes, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to stop or show where this fallacy is. Like Amber said, when I said, "Do you know what the definition of systemic is?" and she had a big blank stare on her face, because systemic means whole, large, all across the country. She's been making a claim, and many, many, many others, that this country is racist. That we
I
do that.
think it does definitely exist. It definitely does, but
In
I
a
don't
very
think
small
it's-
percentage,
Yeah,
yes.
I don't think it's as much.
You're
as
never
people
going to
say.
stomp out 100% of evil on everything. There's always going to be a few crackers running around or whatever that are going to be pure evil on that. Just like this guy that walked into the Texas church, he was pure evil.
Right.
And that you're never going to stomp out. And this is the second part of this. This is why you have to be prepared. And this was the great insight of passing that, Texas passing that 2017 law, basically lifting the ban that said you couldn't carry guns in Texas churches or whatever it was, and saying unless the church specifically bans it, you have every right to defend yourself in a church. And that that came after the mass shooting in this 2017 that killed about 30 or 40 people in the Texas church, and they reversed that. Well, in this case, maybe 2 people lost their life, which is very, very unfortunate, but it probably saved 10, 20, 30, 40 along the line of this church being prepared for the situation of one day when that evil walked through that door.
Yeah, and I heard, and I might be incorrect, but I overheard, this was on a news flash, that the guy had also had a 40 caliber Glock pistol with him.
It would not surprise me that he had more,
right. So let's say he expends his ammunition in the shotgun, goes to the handgun and starts shooting people. He's got anywhere from Glock 40 is going to hold anywhere from 15 to 18 rounds, unless he gets an extended magazine. Okay, so the potential for a far greater mass tragedy was there. And back to the point of this whole racism thing. And I'll ask, I guess we need to clarify this. Stephanie, exactly what we're talking about here, you picked up the point. We, as white males, are under the gun, so to speak, to pardon the pun. So, you hear in these news reports, that's why I was making the reference to Donald Trump. And you can pull up these politicians. Maxine Waters is great for this. Donald Trump is a racist. When you ask them how to define it, they say, well, you're a racist for even asking me the question. It's obvious that he's a racist. Well, it's not exactly obvious if everybody doesn't agree with you. Okay? And this is the reference we're trying to make. And what Roy's trying to show here is that it really didn't, at the end of the day, it was supposedly one of these stereotypical gun-toting, redneck, Texan white males that defended these people's lives with his expertise and his willingness to quell the threat. And it's an example to say, well, here's an individual that acted properly. And what we're doing by showing this is providing more examples to rebut the false narrative of racism and say, we don't give a damn what color you are. If you're pointing a gun at me or intending to do harm to my family or my friends, I don't care if you are pink, purple, polka dot, I'm going to stop you.
Right.
And that's the message. And that's, I think, what we really need to focus on. And we can tear apart the racism thing, but the only way we're going to really win that, we have to lead by example. And we just have to show by example who we are as a country and a nation and as a group of people. And when I say group of people, it is an all-inclusive term. I'm not singling myself out as one of the evil white males. This is not a call for all evil white males to congregate. It is an all-inclusive term when we say people. It is not a pejorative by any stretch of the imagination. Although the left has made it that. They have worked very diligently. Don't you think, Stephanie, that it's not a coincidence when you turn on MSNBC, CNN, CBS, NBC, and they all say the same thing? You can play it over and over, and they'll have the same comment. Donald Trump tweeted this. Donald Trump is a racist. Donald Trump is obviously a bigot. Donald Trump is whatever. I mean, have you watched the news? Do you realize that these stations do that?
Don't ask me if I watch the news. I follow politics, Wayne.
But
Well-
no,
I don't think it's coincidence. It's definitely not. But I think that he puts himself out there to where he makes it easy for people to take tweets and things that he say and twist it and make it sound worse than what it was, or the opposite of what he intended, or just to make him look bad. I mean, that's their goal, and they succeed, I feel like, a lot of the times, to make him look bad. Not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying in general. They are on a mission, and they do it.
So if you think Donald Trump asked them to stop it with Pretty Please with
Hell
sugar
no,
on
they
top, they
wouldn't.
wouldn't? Yes.
No.
Sometimes you have to be
They definitely
absurd by being, you stop absurdity by being absurd. And that's what, probably Donald Trump understands this more than anybody.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
No,
And
definitely, because he hasn't gone where he's gone by being quiet and shy and follow all the rules and
but
make sure he doesn't offend anybody, obviously. But I think that he does make it easy for them to take things and twist it.
I mean, that's some of the reasons why, sometimes why, people just, not that I'm anywhere near that category, but people say, why do you come up and say things like this as you do that
Exactly.
stuff?
People take some things that you say. I mean, you
Yes.
have great points when you go and you speak. You always do.
But that's what I'm
But
saying.
people take it, they twist it, especially when they go and repeat it. It's something completely different than what you
Of
went there and
course.
said.
Of course, and because they want to do it, or they want to make it. They want to make it hear or sound or convey what they want,
Exactly.
not what actually you said.
Exactly.
So if you allow them to do that, then you lose. And that's what's the great thing about Trump, is he doesn't allow them to get him off a track when they do this stuff. And I mean, I've tried to emulate that too, just because people distort what I say or try to read into it what. Like I went up to the school board the last time and said, if you got a question or you want to clarify something, just call me. I'm probably one of the most accessible people in this whole area. And I'm not really that hard to get a hold of. And that's what I'm saying. Let's put the debate up on the table and let's deal with the facts in reality of what's going on. And we will never stomp that out. And like Mason Weaver says in his probably his bestseller, Leave the Plantation. That's what he's telling you. The ones that are telling you that they're giving you this free or they're going to provide for you, they're the ones that are actually keeping you on the plantation. They're the ones that are they're the ones enslaving you. They're the ones that are putting a cap on your future, your life, your children's future for their enrichment. Now, what is the definition of a slave owner? If that isn't it, I don't know what is.
Well, and you also have to look at there is some glaring, obvious facts that they omit, and they have done everything they can do to obfuscate, reroute, change, flip, take things out of context. But the fact of the matter is, if you want to know what the history of the NRA is in this country, it was started by a bunch of white people who were Republicans because the Democrats did not want to let the black people have guns. The white sheet wearers, the Ku Klux Klan members, who were the extreme liberal left. They were not Republicans, although they would have you believe that. They were Democrats. And one of the worst presidents in our history was a pervasive racist, was Woodrow Wilson. And you can look this up. Here's another guy, Democrat, not a Republican. He was a Democrat. He told the chief of staff, his chief of staff, he didn't want to see any of the black servants in the same room with himself. This guy was a blatant racist. But isn't it interesting how they never mention the fact that the NRA was started by white Republicans to help black people defend themselves? They just kind of omit these facts. Now, there are people out there right now that are listening to this going, oh, BS, I'm going to call BS on this. Okay, check it out. Look for yourself. It is out there. If you choose to actually be objective and go look for this information, it's there. Dinesh D'Souza made a really good movie. It was a documentary about this very same thing. And you can follow this. This has, the roots of the Democratic Party are there to enslave you. Okay? The real slave masters are the Democratic Party. And that's what Mason talks about. He's even stated this. That's why he got away from these people, because, everybody points to the big Democrat success, John F. Kennedy. We know that John F. Kennedy couldn't get elected dog catcher, and he couldn't be a door greeter in the Democratic National Committee today. All right? He is nothing like what you see. And this huge departure away from sanity, which is where these, people like the occasional Cortex have taken the party. It is, in one hand, very sad, but we should be ashamed that we elect people that stupid in places of office to make laws for the rest of us. What does this say about our population? That we are so disengaged and so unwilling to take up our, responsibility for our own actions, that we want to push it off on somebody else that's telling us the big government has the ideas. And they're calling us, anybody that doesn't agree with them is a racist, bigoted, homophobe. Whatever happened to the fact that in America we had a First Amendment? Roy and I can sit down and disagree about many things. It doesn't mean we hate each other. It means we have a difference of opinion. And you notice that civility is gone. You go back to the old debates between Gore Vidal and William F. Buckley. Here's two people that couldn't be more polar opposite on the planet, but yet they had a certain level of civility. They were able to articulate an idea and have an opposing viewpoint without becoming caustic and angry about it. And that's just something we don't have today.
You're exactly right. And we're going to have to run the video clip of Milton Friedman and the great free market economist and Phil Donahue. Phil Donahue was interviewing.
Oh, that's a great clip, yes.
Yeah, the greed clip is the 2 minutes of the greed clip on there where he just destroys the fallacy of that, because there again, the greedy Saint white male that suppressing and all this. There isn't probably 3 people that ever walked on this planet that aren't greedy, and as Milton Friedman pointed out in that little clip, and I won't go into it any further than that until we'll discuss it at a later time. But I mean, that's Milton Friedman confronting Phil Donahue, which was way off on the left on the time. But this was back in the 80s. And like you say, it was very civil. They weren't yelling and screaming at each other. They were having a calm intellectual discussion. And you can see the wheels in Phil's head turning when Milton Friedman's explaining it as only he can.
Yeah, and I agree. And again, why can't when you shut down and refuse to at least listen to an opposing viewpoint, you diminish yourself as a person because you are telling everybody around you that you refuse to grow. That's the whole thing about growing older is we're supposed to gain knowledge and wisdom. How are you ever going to do that if you can't listen to somebody else and at least, if nothing else, allow them the air to speak their mind and articulate a position, even though it may be diametrically opposed to yours? That doesn't mean that person's position is completely invalid. It means that they may be wrong, but it doesn't mean that it's an invalid point. And look, there's a lot of people that would like to sweep this government under the rug and start over on both sides. This country is more divisive now than any time in my history. We had riots down in Watts in the 60s during the civil rights, struggles. And we almost had that with Obama because everybody said, well, if you dislike him, you must be a racist. No, I don't care about the color of his skin. I care because his policies are garbage. I disagree with them vehemently. I disagree with telling me that 1.3% growth is the new norm and that I should just accept it, and that everybody should just accept having to work 2 jobs to barely make ends meet. That I should just have to accept his cockamamie idea of, oh, if you want to keep your doctor, you can keep your doctor BS. How did that work out for us? My healthcare costs are sky high compared to before, when Obama's great legacy took over. And it's taken what now? We're still 3 years into the Trump legacy, and we still haven't completely dismantled it. We've done a pretty good job. But here's the thing. The other side wants to point fingers at us and tell us that we're racist because we don't like Obamacare. All right, what's your plan? How do you fix it? It's not working. Nobody likes it. I don't know anybody that likes Obamacare. I'm sure there are some people that do. They're just not in my sphere of influence, so I don't know them. But, I mean, I would take the way it was prior to that any day of the week and twice on Sundays.
Yeah, hopefully we're going to get, when we need to get Dr. Josh Umber on, who is providing medical care for $50 for mom and $50 a piece for mom and dad, 2 kids for $10 a piece, $120 a month, unlimited doctor visits, prescription drugs at 90% less than what you're getting them at, everything else on that. And again, because he's putting free market principles in, that's how you solve this stuff. I mean, it's not rocket science. Government control over the stuff is going to mean you're going to get less of it. However you want to figure it out, again, that fallacy that there's something free or something's going to pay for it, the more layers you put onto stuff, that just makes things more complicated, more expensive, and ultimately it's going to cost more and you're going to get less when you do all this stuff.
Can anybody name for me one government agency that performs efficiently?
DMV. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, I hope you are.
No, seriously though, when I made my appointment at the DMV, it was good. It went smooth. It was quick. I was in and out.
But Stephanie, do you realize that not too long ago you didn't need to make an appointment at the DMV? You just went to one of the several DMV offices around, walked up to the information booth if you didn't know where you needed to go, and handled your business. Now you have to get an appointment to come stand in line.
When you went there, was there a big line going out the door?
No, it wasn't too bad.
Of the people.
I mean, there was a line. There was, but it wasn't going out the door.
Because that's what it usually is when you're walking in a place. And back in the day, as Dwayne said, you never made an appointment. You just went in there. Maybe if it was a really busy day, you maybe waited 10 minutes.
See, but it's so amazing where we live now that everybody wants to move here, and that's why it's such a long line, because everybody needs to take care of their stuff. So you guys are just looking at it the wrong way.
I guess so. Yeah, that net migration out of the state of California for the past 15 or 20 years of peeps is probably.
So let's compare and contrast.
Oh crap.
AAA can perform all the functions that DMV does, except driver's license problems.
Right.
So you can't get a license at AAA. You can't renew a license at AAA. But you can certainly register a car, transfer ownership, do proof of insurance filing, whatever you wish to do. You do not need to make an appointment to go to AAA. You can walk in, plunk your card down, go over and sit down, and usually within 5 minutes, they're calling you to a window. And the person that greets you says, "Hello, how are you today? How can I help you?" Now, I don't know about you, but the DMVs that the last time I was at a California DMV, nobody was cheerful and nobody asked me how they could help me.
See, I had
They
the
were
exact
more
opposite experience between those two. I waited
Yeah.
longer at AAA, and I was treated crappier at AAA than I was at DMV.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
that
maybe
I mean that's unusual because I mean my experience with AAA is just like Dwayne. I mean like the
And I was with
longest
my mom, and I had all 4 boys. It was hell. AAA.
like I mean the longest I had to wait was like 10 minutes ever I think there, and that's with no appointments, no nothing, just showing up.
Right.
On the deal, but that I mean it's a long I mean they can't fire employees. We done that. The person that worked like 3 hours a day for 2 years, not only did they not get fired out of the DMV, the supervisors that let this happen didn't get fired. That's how efficient the DMV is on this whole enchilada. But no, it goes back to the whole thing. Is you're doing that, and again, if you got an honest disagreement or an honest opinion or difference of opinion or outlook of that, that's fine. We've had that's went on through history, but it really seems in the last 10 years in the USA anyway, we've just become, as Tom Del Beccaro talks about, the divided area. We're just looking to pick a fight with one each other. It doesn't matter what it is about. We don't care what the reality of the situation. And it's even, like I say, it's even in our media now. There doesn't seem to be very many in the dominant media trusted news sources, Walter Cronkite, Mike Wallace, or whatever. You pretty much knew if they were saying something, they weren't BSing you or trying to spin it in a way that wasn't reality. You might not have agreed with some of the stuff they brought out or the way some of the tactics some of them used or stuff, but I mean, you had a trust you had of those individuals that were in the media of that. Today, I don't see that in a lot. I mean, I shake my head a lot at it.
Well, there's. News has become entertainment. And
Yes.
the second you moved it away from reporting facts to entertainment, you lost any credibility. And once you lose credibility, it's no different than any other TV show. It's there to sell commercials, period. And I don't know about you, but I really disdain commercialization of news or any factual reporting, as well as the proliferation into every aspect of your life. I can't go on YouTube and watch a video without being interrupted several times by somebody's innocuous garbage commercialization. My email inbox has now got commercials popping up right in the middle of it. This is nuts. And it's probably because more and more people are chucking their TV and turning their cable boxes in because they're just tired of what's on TV. I mean, how much of that garbage can you watch? I mean, it's all the same. It's this repetitive, formulaic BS. You know what it kind of reminds me of? You remember, and if this was particularly so in the 70s, when you had all these independent stations that would play, radio stations, that would put on, and you still have them today, they play one set of songs. It never changes. If you tune in to that station every day at the same time, you're going to hear the same song. And to me, it's no different when the news. You can tune on at your 6 o'clock news, 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I don't care. Pick one. Turn on the news at 5:10 and go run through all the major networks. And within a minute or two, they're all talking about the same story. It's as if one person wrote the copy for everybody to read, distributed it, and they're all reading off the same copy. The only difference is the talking head you're watching.
Yeah, it's a great point. We just had Lori Kane along with Eddie George and her crew that run Hemedai News doing the same thing. I mean, they're out there. They took it upon themselves because in their area the news wasn't getting covered. The actual news that affected the community was not. So they took it upon themselves to do that and got a very great following. So, and a lot of this stuff, I mean, that's what we're doing here across the board of that, because we're not getting the real facts, the truth of what's going on out there. We're getting this distortion and stuff. And it all is to keep us, I believe, to keep us all off base, where we're not, where we're so concerned with what's going on or what's going on in our lives or the chaos that's going on in our lives, we don't have time to deal with any of this other stuff or spend on it. And that's what's, then you kind of get in this proverbial cycle you can't get out of.
No. Oh, okay, Stephanie, I got to ask you a favor because you'll be capable of doing this.
Maybe. We'll see.
Okay. You need to go get a copy of Idiocracy and make Roy watch it. Okay?
Yeah, I can do that.
Cool.
But, I need to get that copy, though. I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah, the copy. Okay. But make him sit him down and make him nail his feet to the floor and make him watch it.
Okay.
And he's going to come away from this with his normal shock and awe that he normally has.
Yeah. You got it. I'm on it.
Cool.
I'm definitely gonna nail his feet to the floor. That's like
yeah, you had to mention that part.
That was the only part that I heard.
Yes.
Well, hey, I got to persuade her somehow, right?
Yep.
If that gets it done, then good job.
Yeah, I mean it is. Yeah, Jesse's brought that up too. He says a lot of this stuff is and there a lot of the stuff we talk about comes up a lot in this that. So I'm actually intrigued by getting to that movie and actually watching it because we got stuff that's going on in this country, and if we don't stomp it out and get back to being civil and liking each other, even though we might disagree about certain things. But, we just have to get back to that, back to that part of where, we can do that. And I say that, but people go, oh, well, why do you need guns and other, and I say that a lot. Back in the Wild Wild West days when most people were carrying a hog iron on their hip and stuff like that, there was a lot more civility and stuff in the way people treated each other back in them day. And, the pendulum's just swung too far the other direction in a lot of these instances. And man, if we don't, again, it's like I say, if we don't swing this back, you just can see the train wreck coming.
Oh yeah, and I agree. It's the one thing about change is that it's constant. And you are going to notice, if the pendulum swings too far one way, guess which way it's headed. I think the pendulum has arrested its development in one direction, and I think it's about ready to swing the other way. And when it does, oh boy, look out.
Play the video of the this, and we'll get to the environmental. I want to catch that, but play the video of the New Year's Eve tradition. I didn't know this went on the New Year's Eve in the Rose Parade, but Fox 11 News had this video up on the deal, and I wanted to catch that.
It's a New Year's tradition unlike any other.
Once a year, here. That's it.
Only in Pasadena, here on Colorado Boulevard, will you find marshmallows and more creative projectiles.
A corn tortilla with shaving cream.
All used to pepper cars as they pass by. It's part of the pre-Rose Parade celebration, as people camp out to have the perfect spot as they bring in 2020. While some are happy to roast their marshmallows, you'll find most of them are used as ammo.
Oh my God, it's so exciting. She's really excited, huh?
I'm scared to do this. I kind of feel bad.
She feels bad, but we're trying. We're trying. It's our first time.
And while many are good sports about it, some, like this woman, get a little bit upset when they become a target.
She got mad because we bombed her with that tortilla with the thing hit her on her chest, and they got mad. That's the way it goes in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. Been here 27 years this year, same spot.
Oh, man, it's awesome to be here. Pasadena is a great city. I'm a pastor here, and we welcome you to our city. Maybe an evening of joy and peace and revelry as we look forward to a great 2010. 2020.
2010.
Way off.
Silly string wars will help kill the time, and because it's a little chilly out, you can bet there was a run on free Snuggies when they were handed out.
Come on, one for you. There we go.
And as the cars pass by, smothered in Pasadena Rose Parade tradition, It's easy to see why so many come here, including Jim from Minnesota.
I think it's awesome. We have parades back in Minnesota, but nobody lines up till 10 minutes before the parade, so this is really unbelievable. We're trying to figure out what the marshmallows are all about.
For now, it's a local secret, a strictly SoCal way of celebrating the biggest parade of them all.
Looks like they have a lot of fun even there. That's a really thing. It's one thing, and we talked about earlier before you came on. It's one thing I've never done is been to the Rose Parade, and one thing I want to do before, maybe cross off the bucket list. You ever been to the Rose Parade, Dwayne? Live?
Wow. Yeah, I think it was 25 years ago.
Did you take into the revelry like the folks did on the New Year's Eve?
I couldn't see or hear your video.
Oh,
so
was that? No, they were throwing marshmallows and tortillas at all the cars. I guess that's a tradition on New Year's Eve, going up and down Colorado Boulevard on that, of what's going on that. But that's another. I wasn't even aware that had been a long time tradition that they've done, about 20 years down there. So. Everybody seemed to be pretty cool about it. A couple of people were a little upset getting hit with it, but I guess it's part of the fun they have on New Year's Eve down there setting up for the Rose Parade.
Yeah, it's I knew somebody that worked on floats for several years down there, and that's how I got invited down to the whole float magic part for the week leading up to that. It's a ton of work. I mean, it's amazing what they accomplish with all, and it's all volunteers. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it is. And there's one other thing that I wanted to cover on this. California alligators, farmers, and Malibu fashion retailers team up. It's something that, Louisiana was actually losing, or their alligator fleet was, threatened to have extinction in the 80s. They got together with a lot of the people out there and they've rebuilt the alligator industry, because on Malibu, Rodeo Drive, and all that stuff, all the Richies like their alligator boots and all that stuff. Well, California, in their great wisdom in 2020, as of yesterday, was trying to ban all alligator skin, yada, 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 this and that.
You gotta be kidding.
No, they did that. But they did agree. So Louisiana sued them in court, or filed a lawsuit. So they agreed to stay the decision, which kind of put it aside until the courts rule on it. But and this goes to the real, who are the real environmentalists and who are not. The Greenpeacers and all this are saying, oh, you're killing the alligators and all that, and you shouldn't wear that stuff. It's actually, Louisiana has rebuilt, as the Reason Foundation article is that. They've rebuilt over the last 30 years the alligator population. They are not on the distinction list anymore. Extinction list. Thank you for the correction. Of that, they actually have a thriving industry of that, and that's what Louisiana's staying constitutionally. There's a thing called the Interstate Commerce Clause, and you can't just shut us off for doing illegal product. Plus, we are actually contributing to the environment, because now there's 300,000 alligators around here that weren't running around, because we actually did work on environmental policy, and we did do that, and we put them together, and we do harvest them. We do get rid of the ones when they're overpopulated, that they're not eating each other and stuff. So we actually did a great service. We saved the alligators, plus we saved the industry that are going for that. And California and the environmental wackos want to basically, like I've said with the trees and everything else, they really want to kill the alligators, because if you implement their policies, the alligators would have probably been gone.
Well, it just makes me go home and want to put on my alligator boots.
There you go.
Because I've got a set, and I'm going to tell you, if you like cowboy boots, they're the most comfortable cowboy boots you're ever going to wear. So, but I guess we have to be rednecks to enjoy that.
Yeah.
But, that's okay because I are one.
Or very
and
rich,
I-
because that's what I say. That's what they're
They
saying.
ain't cheap. I'll tell you,
Yes,
they are definitely not cheap.
of that on the deal. So yeah, it's an absolutely crazy situation. But that it just goes to show you, and I've said it all along. The ones that claim they're environmentalists are actually the ones that are destroying the environment as they've done that. This is the latest example: the California fires and all the problem, and not clearing the forests and all that. The tree huggers that have made that situation. Now this is another shining example of when you don't look at things in reality and you try and distort things because you're thinking, oh, you're just killing alligators for no particular reason, and da 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 da. No, you're actually making it where everybody wins, even the alligators in the end. So that's another great example of the stupidity and the evil of those who try and say or think they're doing good, but they're actually doing much more harm than they're doing good. Final thought, Dwayne.
Well, as always, California leads the way in absurdity. I think it's interesting with the homeless population, with all the businesses leaving, with the fuel costs, with all of the lost revenues, that they have time to focus on alligators.
Yes. Yeah, that's a big, yeah.
Somehow I just don't see that as being a priority, but, you know, I live in Realville, and I guess I just think differently.
Must be. Thanks for being on today, Dwayne. Give us your insights on that.
Thanks for having me.
You got
you
it.
guys take care.
You got
Bye,
it.
Dwayne.
Bye.
That's it. Any final thoughts on what we talked about, Stephanie?
I don't like alligator shoes, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you want to destroy the alligators, so there's
no,
none
I
left.
love alligators.
Well, that's what
I
I'm
wouldn't
saying.
wanna
The
destroy them.
policy.
That's why I said I don't like alligator shoes, so I'm okay
No,
with it.
alligator shoes, the demand for alligator shoes and wallets and everything else has actually led to the proliferation and alligators not being on the extinction list. Instead of the people saying, "Oh, don't kill the alligators." Da, 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 da. Proper policy, knowing how the food chain works, and real environmental policy will eventually keep us sustaining. This goofy stuff that people come up with is going to be the death of us all if we let it roll. That's it. We'll be back on One More Shot on Fantastic Friday tomorrow. That, and then starting on Monday, stay tuned, January 6th, we'll be back on KMET from 5:30 to 6, Monday through Friday. Are you excited about that?
I am pumped.
Are you stoked?
Super stoked.
You got it. We'll be back on that. We'll be back one more time. And we'll still continue to do this on YouTube, Facebook Live, maybe some more, but one more shot on that. And then Monday, we're back on the AM radio, being bigger and brighter in 2020.
Woohoo.
You got it. So that's it. Oh, we don't. Oh, you probably don't have the outro music on that.
no.
So we'll just end it today with a little bit of the deal of what do we usually say when we're out of here?
We're